Hey everybody, this is Coach Jaron with Objective Thinking, where we use math and logic to prove that LeBron James is the GOAT. Today we're going to debunk one of the biggest lies ever told about Michael Jordan. MJ does not jump 48 inches. He does not jump higher than anyone ever in the NBA. Now the fact that this is a lie is one of the reasons he's not the GOAT. He's not the greatest athlete ever like people claim he is. I'm so sure I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. I will give $500 to the first person that can prove MJ jumps 48 inches. Let me ask you this. Are those of you who think he can willing to put your money where your mouth is and commit in the comments to give me money if my video can't be proven wrong? Or are you going to wimp out and be a yacker? Yak, 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 and not back up what you say to be true. Let's look at the proof. I will start with the video titled, Why Michael Jordan's 48-inch vertical claim is false.
It's no secret that Michael Jordan was an amazing jumper. I mean, he took the Dr. J free throw line dunk and added some flair to it. Obviously, the guy had bounce. But what if I told you there was actually no verifiable evidence he was anywhere close to having a 48-inch vertical? Many people cite the 1984 Olympics as the time where he tested a 48-inch vertical. And I mean, it's very commonly believed if you look up Michael Jordan's vertical, you're gonna find 48 inches as the answer. But these aren't coming from people who were there or who have any video of it or anything like that. These are very unverified sources.
Okay. So, even though they're unverified, everything online, and I mean everything, says MJ jumps 48 inches. The first thing I typed in was top NBA leapers all time. And if you look at the bottom, you can see that Michael Jordan is at the top of the list at 48 inches. Now, I grew up in the 70s and 80s when Dr. J was like one of the highest leapers in the NBA. He has that really cool dunk underneath the backboard. So I decided to see how high he jumped. So I typed in Dr. J NBA vertical jump. And look what comes up. Michael Jordan owns the NBA vertical jump. What does that have to do with Dr. J? I mean, absolutely nothing. It's almost as if they're trying to jam down your throat that Michael Jordan jumps higher than anybody else. The last search that I did was who jumped the highest ever in the NBA. Now this is my favorite. This one makes me laugh. They put down Michael Jeffrey Jordan. See, they want to make sure you don't make a mistake and think that it's some other Michael Jordan. They want you to know that it's Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Now listen to this. The greatest, plain and simple. Michael Jeffrey Jordan is the rightful owner of the highest vertical jump in NBA history. With a nickname like his Airness and the inspiration for the Jumpman logo, it should really not even be a question. Michael Jordan is the best jumper of all time. No wonder so many people think he can jump 48 inches. I mean, according to this, it's not even a question.
And of course, a terrible argument to make is to just say, oh, someone's sources are bad, so therefore it's wrong. You can say that about anything. But I have a bunch of evidence, and by comparing it to other jumpers, that's how we can really see that Michael Jordan was not even particularly close to that. The best comparison to make is Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is 6'5" without shoes and 6'6" with them on, the same as Michael Jordan. He's also listed at a 46.5-inch vertical, while Jordan is listed at a 48. Michael Jordan once said the perfect dunk in a dunk contest would be a 360 from the free throw line. He was obviously kidding because no one will ever be able to achieve that. Oh, except Zach LaVine actually did it. LaVine can also windmill from the free throw line, he can dunk between the legs from near the free throw line, he can do significantly more advanced dunks than Michael Jordan could. And these aren't just technique based, you need a lot more lift to be able to do that. But maybe it's just a fluke. Maybe we have a world record holder on our hands and Zach LaVine's vert is just well into the 50s. Well, there's also a guy named James White, who's a 6'7" dunker who is probably the best free throw line dunker of all time. He could windmill from the free throw line, he could dunk between the legs from the free throw line, and apparently had a 46-inch vertical. And I guess it's safe to say this is another mismeasurement, because obviously he can jump much higher than Jordan, so he must have a 50+ inch vertical, and we found yet another world record holder. While we're on the subject of world record holders, let's talk about the guy who held the world record for indoor triple jump for a while, Mike Conley Sr. This isn't the guy from the Grizzlies, this is his dad. And in a Foot Locker dunk contest, Mike Conley Sr. jumped from about 6 inches behind the free throw line, all while at a height of 6'1". We don't have an official measurement of his reach, but we can use his son's reach because his son is the same height, 6'1", with a max reach of 7'10.5". Let's also keep in mind Jordan has a max reach of about 8'8". So if Michael Jordan can reach 9.5 inches higher, in order for them to do the exact same dunk, that would mean that Mike Conley would need a 57.5 inch vertical. But keep in mind they didn't do the same dunk. Conley was a couple inches behind, so that puts his probably around a 60. Obviously, he didn't shatter the world record by 10 inches, although if there's anyone on this list who is going to be over a 50, it's probably him. So when comparing these jumpers, it seems a lot more likely that they would have accurate verticals and that Jordan's would be inflated, rather than the idea that all of them had theirs significantly lower than it's supposed to be. But what about the claim from the Olympics? I mean, at the end of the day, someone witnessed it, so maybe we just don't have the footage from that time. However, someone on Reddit actually broke it down and did a really good job of it. People in attendance said that Jordan was able to get his hand over the square on the backboard. After this guy's quick math skills, he determined that Jordan's vertical was around 43.75 inches, and that...
Okay, so I haven't seen all of them, but in all the videos that I've watched, I've never seen MJ's head above the rim. Close! So it's believable with no ball, he could get about 2 inches higher than the rim, but it's still hearsay. I need to see it to believe it.
That would have been in his prime. Huge thanks to this guy on Reddit for breaking it down because he did a wonderful job of it. And if you scroll down the comments on this subreddit, you can see that a lot of people are admitting they only believe the thing about Michael Jordan because, well, he's Michael Jordan. I mean, if you're someone who's arguably the greatest basketball player of all time, it's not inconceivable to think he would also have the highest vertical of all time. Now, one of the last possible arguments you could make is about his hang time. There's a famous sports science video where they clocked his hang time during the free throw line dunk at 0.92 seconds. Now, to be fair, he is jumping with a ball in his hand, so he's not going to get as high as possible, but also keep in mind he grabbed...
Now, the other thing that you'll notice here is that his legs are bent. That's totally going to increase hang time. So this is a terrible way to calculate how high he jumped.
...the rim, which is going to add 0.01 seconds, 0.03 seconds. We don't really know how much, but it will add to his hang time slightly. Fortunately, it's very easy to test your vertical nowadays using hang time because they have jump mats that will test exactly how long you're off the ground. The best I've gotten so far is 46.5 inches or 0.98 seconds of hang time. And I've attempted it dozens of times, so I was actually able to find a video where I got 0.92 seconds. And as you can see, 0.92 seconds of hang time equates to 41.3 inches. So how does this happen to Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain? Well, you have to keep in mind they hold dozens if not hundreds of basketball records, so when someone throws out the idea that they hold yet another record, people are really likely to believe it, which makes sense. The only problem is the people who are repeating it enough times until it becomes facts aren't people who are in the jumping niche like I am. I watch this stuff every single day. The term 40-inch vertical has become so bastardized to the point where people just attach it to any player who they think can jump high. You have to keep in mind this is extremely rare even for the NBA, where there are only 2 or 3 players in each draft class that have over a 40-inch vertical, and you haven't heard of most of them. The error is different for guys like Shaedon Sharpe, which is why I did a video about him. It's not because he's the greatest player of all time that people want to perpetuate that idea, it's because of a mismeasurement and one that even happened to me. But I also do believe there are a handful of guys in the NBA who have an even higher vertical than what they're listed at. Ja Morant and Gerald Green are the 2 that come to mind. Gerald Green was especially screwed on his vertical. It's probably significantly higher than what it was listed at. I think it's like...
I mean, you can see how high Gerald Green is above the rim. I mean, he's 6'6", so that's at least a 46, 47, maybe even 48-inch vertical jump with how high he is. And if you remember back at that list that I showed, that first search, he wasn't on that list. That tells you how bad that list actually was.
38 or 39, but it's clearly in the mid-40s. And if you want me to make a video on that, leave it below in the comments section. I hope you came into this video with an open mind and at least learned something, but I really appreciate you watching. Thanks, and see you next time.
Here, the top comment says there is proof MJ can jump 48 inches. This is what it says. There was another YouTuber proved that his vertical was 47 to 48 in from videos. Somehow this video don't include that. There was another free throw dunk where his head is above the rim in the midst of the jump. There was another rear dunk where he had to duck so his head don't hit the rim. Jordan also said he doesn't jump too high during games because he has to save energy to play both offense and defense. That last one is my favorite. I mean, can't you just see Jordan going in for a dunk and Clyde Drexler is coming to block it? And in Jordan's mind, he's going, well, Clyde can jump this high, so in order to dunk and not get it blocked, I need to jump this high, which is about 84% of how high I can totally jump so that I can play both offense and defense. I mean, what a joke. It's true that a lot of players don't jump as high as they can when they dunk on certain dunks, but when they're dunking over somebody else, they make sure to go as high as they can so they don't get it blocked. Let's take a look at that video that supposedly proves that he can jump 48 inches.
Near the end of Michael Jordan's career with the Bulls, he agreed to allow a camera crew to follow him around for a documentary on his last season in Chicago. Tim Grover, Chapter 1, Taking Flight. As many of you may know, this is the widely popular and known documentary on MJ that is currently being played on Netflix, which we all know as The Last Dance. Because of the current situation with COVID, a lot of us is looking for more NBA content. And what a perfect time for a documentary about the greatest of all time to come out. Exclusive content never seen before during the last and final run of Michael Jordan in 1998 shows us a side of MJ we never witnessed. It's really hard not to get excited for this documentary every week. Camera crews were with him for almost 24/7 of his life during that season, and early one morning the camera crew was at MJ's house for a rare glimpse of Jordan's gym session. Yeah, MJ working out, not surprising, but what I'm surprised about is how rare MJ workout videos are on the internet. And I'm not talking about MJ's hoop sessions, I'm talking about him working under a barbell and lifting weights. The cameraman noticed a poster on the wall, a classic shot of MJ soaring through the air, with the caption, "How does MJ fly?" He zoomed into the poster, then turned to Michael and asked him, "How do you fly?" MJ just laughed, shook his head, and said, "Ask him." And that was Tim S. Grover, MJ's trainer for 15 years. Now I began reading the book Jump Attack by Tim Grover to learn how Michael Jordan trained throughout the offseason, so I can apply some of his exercises to my routine. I wondered, how did MJ rhyme for so long while maintaining such a taxing NBA season? Well, the best way to do that is to read a book written by MJ's personal trainer of 15 years during MJ's prime years.
My name is Tim Grover. I worked with Michael Jordan for 15 years. Everyone knows me as his trainer, but my official title was a sports enhancement specialist.
Continuing on with Tim's story, he says, "Good question. No doubt MJ's genetics gave him a physical advantage. He has those huge hands and long limbs and predominantly fast twitch muscles that allow him to do extraordinary things. But contrary to popular legend, he's not a freak of nature." What did Tim Grover mean by that? You mean the great Michael Jeffrey Jordan is not a freak of nature? The meaning behind Tim's statement is that to give credit to MJ's accomplishment and accolades to his genetics is grossly misrepresenting the reason of his success. Just like the future greats, such as Kobe and LeBron, it isn't their once-in-a-lifetime genetics that built their success, but their commitment to becoming the best. It was their mental toughness that exceeds far better than their peers, and their work ethic that is the main reason to their success. So if the trainer of the GOAT is saying the reason to MJ's success is not the genetics, but hard work, why not just do it?
Now, I call BS on that. Of course it took hard work, but the main reason is because they are all freaks of nature. As a coach, I had kids that were gym and weight room rats. They worked harder than anybody else on the team, and yet they weren't the best. Why not? Since they worked harder than everybody else. You can't teach 6'6" with a natural 38-inch vertical jump, or 6'9", 250 that can jump even higher.
When I started working with Michael in 1989, his vertical jump was 38 inches.
Okay, I want you to remember that 38 inches because that's going to come into play later in the video.
We got him up to 42 inches and eventually to 48 inches before he took a break from the NBA in 1993 to play baseball. 10 inches over several years. Now, if this is true, did MJ really jump 48 inches? A seemingly ridiculous vertical even for the highest jumpers in the world. To answer this question, let's start off during his college years, when most people are still developing their athleticism and starting to reach their peak. Now, given that MJ was listed at 6'5", 195 pounds in his college years with the Tar Heels, and still grew an inch to 6'6", we can assume Jordan was a late bloomer. This is also backed up from the fact that MJ grew from 5'11" as a sophomore in high school to 6'3" in his junior year, and progressing to 6'5" into his college years. On March 1983, during the final regular game of that season, North Carolina played against Duke. In one play, the Tar Heels turned the ball over after Jordan passed it to the post. With Duke on the fast break, it seemed like Johnny Dawkins would make the easy transition layup. But of course, out of nowhere, there was Jordan flying up to the lane and getting up so high that he hits his head on the backboard. The play was a goaltend, but no one cared, and it was the fact that a 6'5" guard hit his head on the backboard. Now, for a 6'5" guard to do what Jordan did, how high did he jump? Well, we know the height of the rim is 10 feet, and the bottom of the backboard is 6 inches lower, giving a height of 9 foot 6 inches. Michael was 6'5" or 6'6", so based on simple arithmetic, 9'6" minus 6'6" gives us 36 inches. So Jordan was at least jumping 36 inches, and no one can refute this based on the video. Also, when someone is going full speed down the lane, just like Jordan was, vertical speed is not the only speed at play, and some of the energy is going horizontally. Therefore, MJ didn't even jump his highest. And if you study basic high school physics, you know that kinematics shows us that you don't jump as high if most of the speed isn't directed vertically. This is on the assumption that you're applying the same amount of force to the floor or getting off at the floor at the same initial speed. Naturally, running jumps require some horizontal speed alongside vertical speed, because of it being an inherently speed-based movement. This is better explained by comparing long jumpers and high jumpers. Athletes competing in the high jump focus on converting or translating their horizontal speed into vertical speed. For long jumps, they try to maximize the direction of force they need to apply on the floor, which will allow them to travel the furthest. Ilya Ivanuk is a great example why high jumpers can be great dunkers using their vertical. High jump is a sport that can easily translate into single leg dunking. This is because high jump is a sport that focuses on getting the athlete's center of mass to the highest point. So the fact that Jordan had a lot of horizontal velocity in his jump, he was likely not jumping as high as he could. Regardless, he was able to hit his head on the backboard, and even then he was slightly above the backboard. So in 1982, in his sophomore year with the Tar Heels, we can safely assume MJ was jumping at least 38 inches. But we know Jordan jumps higher than that. Surely he doesn't only jump 38 inches. At the age of 19-20, like most athletes, Jordan hasn't reached his full potential in his athletic abilities. Fast forward to Jordan's early years with the Bulls, the pre-Pippen era where Jordan literally had no one else to rely on and had to carry the Chicago Bulls. This was also the time where young Jordan competed in the dunk contest, where he could display his amazing leaping ability without the worry of defenders hitting him in the air and potentially injuring him. Jordan had many very signature dunks, including the famous one-handed cradle dunk, which he would often display during wide-open transition plays or his dunk contests. And also the famous lean dunk that, to my knowledge, no one is able to replicate in terms of style and finesse. Side note, I think this dunk perfectly represents Jordan's superior athletic and physical ability.
Okay, Jordan did have superior athletic ability against those he competed against, but not against today's players. Let me show you an example.
This was really special. Rick Carlisle deciding not to go and call a timeout and advance the basketball. He wanted to go in a broken floor situation. And I mean, Anthony Edwards...
He hit his head under the backboard.
He hit his head under the backboard.
No, he didn't. He actually hit his head on the rim. You can see that his left arm is between his head and the backboard. He really did hit his head on the rim. Anthony Edwards is 2 inches shorter and over 25 pounds heavier and gets higher than any video of Jordan. Obviously, Edwards is more physical because he is over 25 pounds heavier and stronger than Michael. This is what LeBron has to compete against. You can't show me one person that could do this that Jordan had to compete against.
MJ had the air control, finesse, and large mitten hands to land this dunk. What do you even call this dunk? A windmill leader dunk? That doesn't even fully encapsulate this beautiful dunk. He palms the ball instead of cusping the ball like the usual windmill dunks. And back to the dunks I was talking about. The famous but highly underrated dunk is the reverse one-footed dunk. Jordan starts off on the right side of the wing and runs up into the low post, jumping to the other side and finishing up with a reverse dunk. Now Jordan has replicated these dunks in all of his dunk contests in 1985, 1987, and 1988. Nothing really stands out until you appreciate the airness in slow motion. You'll truly be able to appreciate Jordan's leaping ability. What's interesting is that each year, it seems as if Jordan was able to jump higher in these dunks. In his first year in 1985, he was able to get his head above the lower backboard, and in 1987, Jordan is able to reach his head on the rim, but ducks as soon as he is about to hit the rim. In 1988, Jordan is fully capable of hitting his head, but also has the ability to put his elbow into the rim. I don't think anyone's ever been able to do that. Again, back to the drawing board, if Jordan is 6'6" and the rim is 10 foot, Jordan needs to jump 42 inches to touch his head on the rim. But as you can see, at the age of 24, where most would consider an athletic prime year to be, Jordan was clearly able to touch his head on the rim. We also need to acknowledge that Jordan came into the dunk in an angle contorting his body sideways and rotating. So if you guys are familiar with max vert testing, this is definitely not the most ideal way of jumping in a max vert. Also from this angle, you can see that Jordan is leaning his head backwards and not fully extending his head so he can avoid the rim. Based on this attempt in 1988 at the age of 24, we can conclude Jordan was able to jump at least 42 inches. Since he was clearly...
Actually, this proves that he didn't jump 42 inches. You can see that his head is below the rim.
Able to jump higher, I think it's a good estimate to say that he was able to jump 2 to 3 inches higher if he was going for the actual standard vertical jump test. So by this time, I think MJ was jumping 45 inches with a great degree of certainty. But now you might ask, what about the ridiculous whopping 48 inches of vertical that Tim S. Grover and many people in the media claim? Could he really jump that high, or was Tim Grover hyping up his book for the media and public? In my opinion, I think part of it was the hype, but there is some truth to it. Jordan was clearly jumping up to 45 inches before he met Tim Grover and was not jumping 38 inches in 1989. In fact, Jordan was jumping 45 inches at the age of 20. When he was at North Carolina, in a motion analysis class project during 1983, Jordan was the subject for a max vert jump test. Utilizing different parts of the subject's body as a marker, the subject's max vertical jump was carefully analyzed and measured. During the jump, Jordan was able to use his upper limb or his arm as a free swing to generate momentum. In the standing jump, Jordan measured at 35.93 inches, which is considered elite to even pro dunkers. And for his running jump, he measured a whopping 45.76 inches, which is even greater than what we anticipated from the analysis of the dunk contest.
If that were true, of course Jordan could jump 48 inches after working with Grover. I mean, that's only a couple of inches higher. But unfortunately, for those that believe MJ is the GOAT, 46 inches is not how high Jordan jumped. I'm sure you're saying, dude, it's right there in black and white. What are you talking about? Do you remember Grover said he jumped 38 inches when they started? I want you to take a closer look at the numbers. 2 lines above 45.76, it says, vertical displacement of the pelvis during a jump from running, 38.07 inches. Since his pelvis went 38, so did his head, which is exactly how high Grover said he could jump when they started working together. I'm sure you're asking, then how was his vertical reach displacement almost 46? Let me show you how it works mathematically. You can see his natural reach. You'll notice as he rotates his shoulders and reaches with one hand, which is how the measurement was done, his hand displacement increases by about 8 inches. That's the math that shows why his hand displacement was 46 and his pelvis only 38. MJ only jumped 38 inches in the study. Think about it. Jordan supposedly jumped 46 inches in college, and then according to this video, started jumping lower in his early career in the pros? That's just stupid. This video needs to be thrown out. Here's another comment that talks about how high Michael Jordan can jump. It's the top one. This is what it says. Look up Jordan's underrated dunk on YouTube. He jumped, did a reverse dunk, had his head at the rim, and had his arm elbow deep in the rim. Then you see other angles of the dunk and realize his body is tilted backwards and not vertical, meaning his head would have been above the rim if he was upright. Take into account how he jumped and had a ball. He could have jumped higher. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at this video. Few players have ever gotten their head at rim level, whether in-game or in the dunk contest. This is very difficult to do and is the true measure of one's vertical. Here's a few clips of those rare instances. Another difficult thing to do is to jump high enough to get your elbow in the rim in a dunk. Here are two examples of such dunks. MJ got his head at rim level and jumped high enough to get his elbow in the rim in one dunk in the 1988 dunk contest. First, look at these clips of that dunk. It won't look all that impressive. Nothing really stands out, right? It's not until you see it in slow-mo and from this angle where you truly get to appreciate how special this dunk is. Finally, here are some pics of that dunk. Pay special attention to the last pic. Notice where his head is at and the sheer amount of clearance between his feet and the floor. Now this is totally sleight of hand. Notice how he says pay attention to the last picture. He doesn't talk about looking at the other pictures. And the reason why is because they prove that Jordan didn't get to the rim. You can totally see that Jordan isn't to the rim in this picture. Here's another one where you can definitely see that he's below the rim. Some people believe that MJ jumped above the rim just because announcers said it.
Jordan on the wing. Oh, there, a line drive back. Oh, is that a line drive? He jumped to the peak of his jump. Looked like he was looking down the basket. Now watch this. Look at this. Up. Stops. Look at how high he is. It looks like he's shooting that jumper down. Now we know when he dunks it, he's down. And look at it. Just goes.
Obviously, he isn't shooting down, and the ball isn't a line drive. I mean, you can see at this point that it's actually higher than the backboard.
Just clears the rim.
Here's another one where the announcer is being ridiculous.
44 Jazz. Pippen down for Jordan. Look out. Running. Oh, my goodness. You talk about a hammer. He was looking down at the basket on that dunk.
His head is not above the rim, and he's not looking down at the basket on this one. Again, hyperbole from the announcer. Here is how the $500 challenge works. Find a video where MJ's head is 6 inches above the rim. Give me the link for proof in the comments, and I will send you $500. Heck, let's make it $1,000. I will give $500 to the person that finds it, and $500 to the person that got them to watch the video and accept the challenge. Now, it has to be during a game or competition because photos can be manipulated. Here's more video proof that LeBron can jump higher than the rim.
The guy who's put his hat into the slam dunk competition for next year. Giving everyone a little preview.
You can see that his head's above the rim. I can tell it's a little hard to see, so let's go ahead and look at one more.
Williams trying it again. Different result, but Mo Williams, the smallest guy on the floor, gets the rebound. James jumped up to the roof to make the catch and is fouled. He looked at Mo and said, "Could you get it close for me?"
Oh my goodness, what is this?
Look how high his head is. He's definitely above the rim. Now that I have proven that LeBron jumps higher, I can hear you MJ homers saying, why does it matter who jumps higher? I mean, think about it. There are so many plays in basketball where the better player is determined by who jumps the highest. The higher jumper will get more rebounds, have more steals on high passes, will block more shots and get fewer blocked. Heck, even winning a jump ball within the game is worth an extra possession. In conclusion, MJ does not jump 48 inches. For those of you that still think he can, either show me and take the money or shut up and accept the fact that Jordan does not jump higher than everyone else and is not the greatest athlete ever. LeBron is the greatest athlete, which is what makes him the GOAT. If you want to debate that, I'm right here. Set it up. I challenge anyone to a debate. Stephen A. and all you other Michael Jordan homers out there, I'm coming after you. Thanks for watching the video.